Hello everybody, this is Maniac for Bricks, and I'm here today with another mock video where I make something of my own. But Maniac, aren't these models from actual LEGO sets behind us? Well, you're right. Myself? Okay. So let's take a look at how I'm going to use this mock, not yet shown, to help with reviewing these sets and many others. Introducing a newer form of the minifigure stand I've done many times before. This is approximately 4.0. This version has several new features to it, although it still retains the same thing at its core. You have one handle that can turn and make the minifigure spin 360 degrees. With this one, I have up to 5 different slots that are available for spinning a minifigure or a different LEGO object. Doesn't have to be specifically a minifigure, but I like to use it for that. And what's interesting about this one, I can remove different parts of them so that I can focus on different numbers at a time without having these other ones being obstructions. Now, I do have some covers to put onto it, and I will get to that in a little bit. But for right now, let's take a look at the machinery behind it. This may not be a complete tutorial, as people have been asking me through Instagram to do a tutorial, but you should be able to see how the parts go together and get an idea for yourself. If you need more information, I'll try to put some links in the description below if you need specific parts, because I do know the certain parts you'll need for a basic version of this. Just one that can even do one minifigure spinning around. First thing is you'll need a couple of Technic axle pieces. These are ones that run all the way through this whole mechanism and run through each of the gears. These hold the gears in place and also allow for the spinning motion. The wheel is just something you could use of any sort of piece. It doesn't have to be a Technic wheel per se, but it's something easy for me to roll around it and hold it so I can turn these in different directions. Now they can go both clockwise and counterclockwise. Originally, this design actually had both things happening at the same time. These two were accidentally put in the gears on opposite ends. You might see a little bit in there that there are some tan gears. We'll take a look at this one as a better example. The tan gears in this formation allow it to turn in a clockwise or counterclockwise motion with everything else. But if I had this one reversed to the other side of that gear, you can see on top of there, then they would turn completely opposite from everything else. If I could do just a quick example with this one on the end, basically, you can see right there, that small gear is what is running through all of these at the center axle. Then there's one on top, which allows this part to turn, an axle attaching to that, and then attaching up to the stand. There is a gear on top for all of these, but it's not used for turning. The only use for that is so that they are just holding their place, because it's a little bit too much space for the axle to fit through here, but I didn't want it to be a tight connection between these pieces. These are ones that have stud attachments, so if it was too close, it might actually clip part of the studs. Now right now, here's a good example of what would happen if some of them were a little off frame. I have these both standing on studs, but if you notice, they're not turning the same way as other ones are. Let me put this one on frame for example. So I'm not looking at the entire back of this one, but I'm looking at the entire back of these two. This is another thing you have to be careful with when working with the gears, is that you line up these gears with everything else as you want it to. It helps to have a few examples on frame so that you can get an idea of where to sync everything up. So now you can see everything up front and see everything on the back. It's a very simple mechanism, but it does have some nice engineering properties to it. Nothing that I know too much about in terms of engineering, but it's nice to experiment with LEGO. It's simple and it's easy to change. Now I have it facing this way for a specific reason. If I have LEGO animals that are too large to fit on a surface like this, then I can put them on there. I can take something like Scooby-Doo, and it also gives you an idea of how large it fits on different studs. Then I can also show how it looks, with everyone to the side, to the back, and then back to the front, although the tail does get in the way. So, yes, there will have to be some adjustments depending on what Lego sets I'm looking at or what figures I want to show on here. Now, let's say there's something, let's say this Chihuahua. It doesn't exactly fit in the center of the minifigure stand. You can see it kind of turns not entirely on the middle. Well, there's a very simple solution for that. Just add a jumper. Now it's centered, and you can see it all the way around. What happens if there's a big fig, or something that doesn't stand on just two studs? Well, very simple. I can take away some of these parts just by the tops, so that the mechanisms underneath are still in sync, and nothing is changed about their the way that they work. I can easily take all these off, because they're rather simple in how they attach. I could put one on here and I can adjust all the pieces because, again, it's Lego. It's easy to make these adjustments on the same thing. I could take a larger piece such as this and then put a big fig on top of there, or whatever pieces are needed to make it work. Then you could have that large figure on here. I could also do some other adjustments in which maybe I could hold two of these on here and show two figures at a time. So then if I were to have a close-up and you would only see maybe the bottom of the trans clear pieces, then you only see the minifigures and not the rest of the stand. The key for the reviews is to not show the entire stand, although I don't mind if it does. I do have something to work with that, as you'll see soon. But if I wanted to just go to the minifigures very closely, then I have that capability. All just a matter of moving the camera or moving the stand. What I'm adding on now is the area that will help the stand not be so mechanical underneath. This is very simply something that just goes around the outside and covers up those areas where you might see gears underneath. Keep in mind, it still keeps the gears on the top open because they're not part of the mechanism. These are just ones that, again, hold these stands in place. So if I want to add a whole bunch of figures on top of here, and it's nice to have a whole bunch here because sets like the Big Bang Theory have 7 figures, and that's quite a lot for one Lego set. So if I need the space for it, I have that available. Or if minifigures have backpacks, or there's maybe a collection of different figures that are put on here, then I could have those sizes adjusted properly so that the minifigures won't be hitting each other when they are on the stands. So once I fit Scooby-Doo on here, I can... Oh, he fell right off. So once I fit Scooby-Doo on here, I can get a little closer. And yes, you can still see from here most of the mechanism underneath. Well, at least the stands. You don't see the actual gears from this point. But you can still see the figures very clearly. They're not standing too far close to the mechanism that it would be... I don't know what the right word would be, but it would look a little cleaner this way. And yes, they do wobble back and forth in place. Again, it's not perfect in terms of stability, but it's enough to hold itself on and be able to turn it around, even at different speeds. I can also turn it backwards if necessary. If I also wanted to, I could attach a motor onto this whole thing. Remote control access can allow me to spin this without moving by hand. That's very easy to do, where I just pop off the tire, add a motor onto it, hold the motor steady, and then have it play, and adjust the speed properly. All in all, it's a nice little mechanism. If you want to try it out for yourself, there's only really a few pieces that you need to get the basic idea of how it works. And if you wanted to set reference, I suggest some of the later versions of the AT-ST from Star Wars. There are some versions, I believe the 2007 version is a good example of something that has that same mechanism where there's a gear in the back turning the head of the ATST back and forth on a center axis. It works out very well, and it gives you, even in there, some of the basic pieces to make this mechanism work. The rest of it is just cosmetic and trying to advance on the existing idea. So thank you for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I get to use this to good use in future videos so that you guys can get better representations of the minifigures that I show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with more LEGO videos.